All right, welcome back, everybody. This is our third episode of Lost Boys Presents Deep Cuts, the show where we take you deeper into Lost Boys Cipher Circle with some of the artists and get to pick their brains for a little bit more, for a little bit longer than get to have them on for the show. Today, I have Neila McSwain. She's a poet, and I would say activist. You can follow her on TikTok at Poetry Rose 42. Follow her on Instagram at Poetry Rose 1. Follow her on Facebook at Neila McSwain. How you doing tonight?
I am doing well.
Great. So you before the show you were telling me and obviously I introduced you do stuff on TikTok. You were telling me you were making your TikToks. What were you talking about tonight? Anything particular or
I normally try to do at least three poems, and then I always go my intellectual side comes
Mhm.
out. So this side was talking about the seven deadly sins and
Mhm.
um, narcissism, this world, and also about the Bible and how it's a grimoire of witchcraft.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this on several episodes, and I think I was talking about it on one of our other deep cut episodes that I've recorded with another artist. Is the Bible is so twisted because it is. I mean, first of all, the church was the government, and the government has always been doing things for their own agenda,
Mhm.
and so I mean, even the original Bible is nowhere to be found. You can't find the original Bible because it was written thousands of years ago in ancient Hebrew and translated by one guy who had an agenda and another guy who had an agenda, and just I mean, it just became so many things just became evil. I mean, there's no other word for like I would say that hanging witches or hanging women at the stake just because you think they practice magic, I would call that pretty evil. And that was and I think I talked about it again in another episode is the original line "suffer not a witch to live"
Mhm.
was not that's not how it was originally phrased. It was originally phrased to describe someone who practiced harmful magic that was not beneficial but harmful to others. And then King James came along and he just had the whole thing about witches and just um but I heard something interesting about the witch hunt the other day. I
Mhm.
heard that there there was a possibility that these people were um, they were getting some kind of poisoning from the wheat that they were there was I forget the contagion or the chemical in the wheat that caused it. But it was like wheat and barley that was bad, and it quite possibly would cause these people to not only get super sick but also to hallucinate.
Yeah.
And somebody was saying on a podcast, and there's a documentary that I was looking up and watching on YouTube. Where they were saying that there's a possibility that because of the hallucinations, that's where a lot of the, you're a witch came from, is because these people would be, hallucinating and just seeing things.
Yeah, that's basically what I describe. The reason why I basically debunk the Bible and I normalize it. On YouTube, when I in 2018, I got attacked with a witchcraft attack, and we all know it as schizophrenia. So I've had the delusions, I've had the strong visions, and these things are all depicted in the Bible. And so over 2018 till now, I am literally explaining it from all the way from Hollywood to your politicians to your churches to your governments and exposing it all and putting truth into it. These writings are from ancient kingdoms that they molded into a book, which is what you would call a grimoire. And they taught the world hate because hate is financial, it makes money. Happy people don't make money. Loving people don't make money. So a lot of those things they got put in the Bible, just like I suffer a witch not to live and things of that nature. We all have magic, we all have powers, we all have inner strengths and inner superpowers and things of that nature. So Teaching people that you're just born to sit and work 8 hours at a job, that's the sin. Versus you're born to manifest your greatness. You understand? So if you're told, let's say you, not only are you a dope ass poet, you know what I'm saying, but with your poetry you could illuminate something peaceful, or you could illuminate some healing and stuff like that, but you're taught something negative to stop your manifestation of your superpower, and you live in that. And then people think about, I can't hear you for some reason, your microphone went off.
Sorry, it's the mute button is touchscreen, so if I touch it,
Oh,
it goes off. My bad.
yeah.
Um, but no, that's literally what it is. It's a superpower, and I sound like a broken record because I feel like I've mentioned this multiple times, but
Me too.
there's this artist that I listen to, Tom McDonald. He has this song called Superman, and that's what it's about. It's about that we kind of have to be our own superheroes, and we have to save each other because no one's coming to catch the missiles.
No,
No one's coming.
right.
No one's coming to save us.
Yeah.
We're in it, and like you said, as artists, we have to essentially be superheroes and use our power to reach out to people and save them. I mean, I've talked about it many times before, like art and whatever kind of art you practice it saves lives.
It
It
does.
really does.
It does. It can
We're out.
inspire. We have a negative nowadays kind of artistry is selling stuff and high end products and things of that nature. It's not really helping people. It's causing mental illnesses. You got people out there wanting to commit suicide, and then there's some that's healing. But the healing stuff gets, put as, oh, it's just indie and it's something else, when it should be mainstream because it's healing properties. You understand? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that, and and something you were saying before is, they what kind of reflects something I was thinking about earlier is they don't want us to be able to grow or heal. They want to keep us, you know,
Slave.
yeah, they want to keep us docile and
Docile. That's the
you know
word.
what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They and the best way to do that, unfortunately, is to get us to fight with each other
Yeah.
so that we're not fighting with them.
And that's the Bible.
And it's dividing and conquering. And yeah, and like that's the thing is the church government
Hmm.
is a relatively new idea. For
It is.
thousands of years, the church was your government. The
Yeah.
church was your government. The church
It,
was your God. The church was everything.
it was the temple, and it was just a temple for healing. It was a temple for healing, and it was a place where widowed mothers and things of that nature used to be able to get help. It was never about a pastor was the head and he gets to roll around in $1 million houses and things of that nature while his
Well, I
flock
mean,
is
have
needy.
you? I mean, these like cardinals, for example. I mean, you've seen the most people won't know what cardinal is. The best example I can give is if you've seen Three Musketeers.
Hmm.
The cardinal with the red guard in any version of Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Um, he like it was like, and I obviously that's in France, that's another country,
Hmm.
but it was the church was that was the kind of power they had. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The red
Was
card,
to.
the what the church's people, they had soldiers of their own, and they could like they were like kind of like privatized military almost. You know how we have those privatized militaries and those privatized prisons that people are making fortunes off of, by the way, which is a whole nother conversation.
But
But
it's the
it
same.
hasn't changed. It's the same. Yeah, there's
It's
still
the
privatized prisons. There's still privatized, um,
same
and
change though, because it used to be that church was there to say, okay, this is an evil we need to exact off the earth. Period. It was never for the evil to manifest into something like this. And that's the problem. The church has changed. It's changed from justifying wicked people and treating the innocent like trash. Like we feed
right.
our leaders. They don't feed us. They're in that position to feed us. We're supposed to be eating well. We're supposed to be sheltered. We're the ones who's supposed to be okay during earthquakes, hurricanes, and storms. They're not supposed to inflate prices so that we can barely afford a roof over our head. They're not there to inflate food when a snowstorm is happening. So they raise the prices 10%. Their inflation is not even a real thing. Because they're there to feed the people. And if they're not feeding the people, then they are the wicked on the earth that needs to be exacted from the earth. Because
My
look at
God, I mean, we don't we don't give money to our own people. I mean, everything from the homeless people on the streets
us,
to
shouldn't be.
um the Coast Guard being one of the most underfunded branches of the military. They're the ones who protect our borders. To I mean Hawaii when
Yeah,
the fires in Maui,
yeah,
those people got $700. A one-time payment of $700.
yeah.
Their their whole land was destroyed. What do you I mean,
What do you mean?
that is
Your leaders did what?
absolutely nothing, and and
Their
it just
job is to do something. Their job is to make sure those people are sheltered, their homes are restored, not to charge them and loophole them on insurance claims and things of that nature. It's to protect the people. And if you're not protecting the
absolutely.
people, you don't need to sit in that seat. That's the way I look at it.
No, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I mean, that's the thing is they have these people in office right now that I mean, clearly Biden's just a puppet. He can't even string a sentence together. He's just but, like, he's just like a Jeff Dunham puppet,
Yeah. Yes.
but it's honestly the people behind the strings that concern or, pulling the strings that
Yeah.
concern me.
That's it.
And yeah, no, I really love that you use your platform and your voice to kind of bring light to that and um debunk. I mean, because it's not only just I feel like the obviously, the Bible and Christianity has become so intertwined with our society and our government and just like it's just part of like if you practice a different religion, you are a minority.
You are. Or you're looked
Be
at as
just for practicing another religion.
yeah, or
And
you're
and that-
you're a
or
sin
if
or something else. And it's like, what?
I mean, I feel like now more and more people nowadays, a lot of the people I have on my show are not Christian or not religious at all. They're what I would call spiritual,
I'm
which,
spiritual.
they believe in a force, they believe in an energy, they
Yep.
believe that their, you know, energy resonates with the universe, which is that's kind of my belief. I don't think and I think that um well, like it just sounds silly to me when I just think of like God as a single entity or a person because it just seems silly. Like I just picture some guy with a beard sitting in a chair and like that just seems silly to me because I know that like whatever that force is, like it is so beyond being able like even having to have a physical form
Yeah.
fingers, toe, like it's so beyond that.
It's
Like it
entity.
doesn't need it doesn't need a form, you know what
I
I
call
mean?
it
And
I just call it creation. I actually have a poem talking about that. It's called Elohim. And that's what I says, just one line from it. I am not God. I am what manifests when God fails you. I'm the rebuilding when storms brew. I'm the thunder that roars to frighten you. I'm the tsunami that wipes out worlds. I'm not boy or girl. I am the I am. Until I take my stand, I am the I am. And
wow.
that's the poetry that I write because I write spiritually. I see the pains and sorrows of this world. I connect with you. I connect with Cage, Cage,
Cage C, yeah,
Casey.
Caleb,
I
yeah.
connect with him, and especially when he was like, I'm schizophrenic too. And then when I hear his poetry and things of that nature, that stuff comes out. I remember he said something like, it's when I'm writing, it's like it's a third person. It's like I'm kind of responding to the schizophrenia as well as writing myself, because that's what your spiritual self is in schizophrenia. There's always another voice that you're kind of battling against. So
Right.
in my poetry, it comes off like, I'm battling this entity, but this is my artistic person coming out. So
Right.
I felt him. I felt I was there. I was like, I was with you guys, horseman. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's something I talk about all the time too. Is he uses he is like you've seen all these multiverse movies that are coming out nowadays, right? All the the variants, and then they come together. Like, I feel like his mind is a multiverse
Yeah.
movie. Like, he's got like all the Spider-Man up in there, and he's gonna love this when he watches this episode. But like
Yeah.
he is like shattered dimensions, but what is the thing that you learn when you watch all these movies? All of these different types of Spider-Man, or all these different variants of Loki or whatever, they all, they have to come together
Yes.
to do something amazing, do something incredible, do something impossible.
Yeah.
And that's what he does every time he
Yeah.
writes.
I just
He's like Doctor Strange. He is the multiverse of madness. Like,
I
he,
love
you know
it.
what I mean?
Yeah,
He
when it was
he
coming
really
out, I was
is.
just like, yeah, when he was describing it, and then when I was listening to his rap song poetry, it's like all in one. I was just like, I felt that, because it does. It feels like it's a third entity in the room with you that you're battling against, and you're trying to you're keeping your sinner, because this is your Spider-Man, your sinner. And
Hmm.
then you got this one trying to diminish that's your Spider-Man. So that's your what's it called, nemesis or whatever. That's
Right.
the schizophrenia is your nemesis, and then you're fighting to keep going, and you keep this I call it creation.
We
That's just the best way I could describe what a spiritual person believes. We just believe in
see.
bigger than whatever.
I
And
feel like the schizophrenia, it doesn't, or any mental illness for that matter, it
in
doesn't have to be your nemesis. It can
yes,
actually be your superpower.
it is.
You can
Yeah,
use it as your superpower
right.
instead of looking as it as something to fight against. Use it, and that's what he has learned to do that. Caleb
Yeah,
has, Cage has learned to do that, and he's gotten very good at it.
yes.
And but yeah, I think there was a train of thought that I had lost, but oh
Sorry.
yeah. There was something I was gonna say on the topic of the just the universe. And um I for one am a big proponent of, we are not the only ones out there. There are other life forms.
Right.
And there's this funny song that I like, where it's this rapper and this girl, and they're arguing about like God and the universe. And she's like, he's like, you think that all of the life in the universe happens to be where you stand? What an enormous coincidence that shit would be. Do you get what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then and like she's like, she doesn't believe in aliens, and he's just like, all I'm saying is, like, why can't God fuck with aliens? Like, why can't, like, would you think we're the only ones that we're made in creation? And
Yeah.
honestly, I think it goes deeper than that. I think that we are one of the most primitive. I think, like, I mean, I think that it's, to them, using sound waves to communicate is
Hmm.
probably so primitive. I mean, I've watched podcasts with Elon Musk where he is actively right now, I mean, and developing software to make humans into cyborgs so that they can cybernetically connect with each other. This technology could heal, could make you, if you're blind, it could bring you your sight back. If you're paraplegic, it could give you your movement back. And it could literally allow people to interface, which this is scary, interface with each other without speaking,
But
just data
can I
connection.
interject? Can I interject with that? It goes back to superpowers. It made me resonate when you said Elon Musk, and it's kind of like going, because he's a billionaire, he can develop this, but naturally, me and you could be doing this naturally ourselves, and that's what they want us to have dormant. Our
Right.
brain is only working at 10%, so they say. So unlocking our brain to work
Yeah.
15, work 20, me and you could naturally do this.
And I mean,
They taught us a primitive mindset, but yet we are that superpower naturally. You never
here's
know
the
what
thing.
we're capable of.
I'm sure you have. Do you? I'm sure you have a family member or multiple. You can finish their sentence, or you can read their mind. Like you know what they're thinking in that moment because you just know them so well, and you've established a neural link with each other. And it's something actually Elon Musk was talking about on one of the podcasts I listened to.
Mhm.
Is he was talking about how um, we already kind of are cyborgs. You know, when we don't have our phone on us, it feels like we have a missing limb. Like it is already a part of us. The only thing is the data transfer is
Okay.
so much slow. The data transfer is slower. And the thing is when you are get connected with something
Hmm.
and every day and are very familiar with that, which like your phone or another person, you establish this neural link, which is it's partly a muscle memory thing,
Okay.
and it's partly like your neural pathways, they kind of get ingrained in this certain path of like doing this certain thing every day. Like you know, you go to work and you're just like, I can be tired as hell, almost ready to fall asleep, and still do everything I need to do at work because, or for some people playing video games, your brain establishes these neural links and neural pathways where they're ingrained in you. And so if we could develop that on like a higher level, like you said, where they say we're only using 10% of our brain, we
Yeah.
could develop that on a higher level. Like there's like no end to the things we could do. It is ridiculous. It is
Because
absolutely ridiculous.
like those things like cell phones and tablets and computers and TVs and stuff like that. I think those are the things that also keeps us dormant. Those are the things that stop us from developing into our spiritual selves. Like when they say there was a time of powers, when I say there's a time of powers, there's a time of witchcraft and things like that. I talk about this on my TikTok. Like they taught us that witchcraft doesn't exist, but yet we watch TV and we see them use a grimoire every day on our
Hmm.
favorite shows. We see these things happening. So imagine that mixed with natural power. Like when I look at Hathor and I started looking at her, that was the name. That was my first artist name before I stopped and changed into Poetry Rose. But me identifying with that goddess is because that goddess identified with creation. It was the love of Ra. It was she was there. She was there for origin. And then biblically, you would call her wisdom. So these type of things is something I feel I'm a reincarnation of. So I'm trying to manifest into that powerful self and try to eliminate what I was taught in this world. And a lot of my natural self is coming out in my poetry. Like when I say schizophrenia, it's like, okay, you got that side, the nemesis side, but then you got your powerful side that you're walking into more and more every day, waiting for it to get unleashed. So it's
Right.
like waiting for this power to get unleashed. And it's like a power of creation. Like I believe my faith goes with creation. I believe I can move mountains. I could walk on water. I believe I can manifest rain. I believe those things. I really believe I can grow vegetation. If I believe those things, why can't I do them? It's
Right.
about unlocking the power
It
to do
it
them.
it absolutely. I mean, there is countless evidence of that. I
Yeah.
mean, and people always go to the Buddhist monk example where these crazy little Asian dudes are just splitting brick walls in half and just mastering their body and their mind in such
Yeah.
a crazy way. But I mean, even like he's a magician, but he's also a stunt artist and a very like he David Blaine. Obviously, everybody knows David Blaine. He has done some of the most like and if you watch some of Chris Angel's stuff back in the day too, but
Hmm.
David Blaine, one of the recent things that I heard about, and I don't know how long ago he did this, but he stood on this like pole,
Hmm.
on a pole, like in the I don't know, what do you call it, like swan or no, whatever that pose is called, where you lift one leg up and hold it like this.
Oh, okay. It's like a crane or whatever type.
Crane, yeah, that's it. The
Okay.
the crane pose on a pole for I think it was like 36 hours or
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And that just takes such an insane mastering of the body and mind.
Yes.
And if I
Yes.
mean just a stage performing,
Yeah.
magician. From If he can learn to master his body and his mind like that, like it is there's like I said, there's countless examples of it. Most of them are those stunt artists, like Houdini. He was definitely, and I mean, Bruce Lee too.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee. These people are on another level of consciousness. Not just like, they're not just physically um, better and more advanced. They've been able to reach these physical levels because they've gotten their mind
Yeah.
straight.
Yeah,
I
they poison
actually,
the water. They poison water, they poison the food, they poison almost everything. So imagine, why are they poisoning us? You
I
know?
was oh my god! So I watched. I don't know what it's called because it's one of those shows that my girlfriend puts on, and then I pretend like I don't like it, and then I sit there and I'm like,
Ear hustling. Yeah,
and
you're ear
so,
hustling.
but it's this show where they bring millennials or gen whatever the newest, like
Yeah.
they're just turning 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I'm 22, so I'm not far behind, but they bring basically my generation out in, they tell that, and they're all rich and spoiled though. They're
Okay.
all rich, spoiled, and they bring them out into nature.
Hmm.
Like they bring them out into onto a secluded island. They can't have, it's like Survivor basically
Okay.
with stuck up kids. Um, and you get to see like their whole personalities change, and it's not just the isolation, it's their diet,
Oh,
as well as them they're being removed from society, and just having to, I mean, because I think that we weren't meant to, like New York, Chicago, we weren't meant to be packed up like that.
no,
We weren't meant to be packed up
no,
like that,
no.
and when
Own,
you
own vegetation. That's how we're supposed to live.
yeah.
Or to
eh,
manifest things. Yeah.
but yeah, I was watching these kids just go from like, stuck up, preppy douchebags,
Hmm.
to like finding their humanity
Yeah.
in nature. And it's not like I said, it's also, I believe that it's the diet that they switched to as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, with everything, the chemicals, and there is shit being pumped into our veins,
Yeah.
literally. And it's poison, and it's distracting us. And I think that these shows where, like Survivor, or where they just go out into nature, you've always you kind of get to see these people's humanity come out. And
Right.
and it's not always, the good side of their humanity, it's sometimes the bad, but
Just,
you
yeah.
you get to see the humanity in these people, and it shows you how toxic our society is.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
yeah, on
Yeah.
an insane level.
But I love seeing stuff like that. It's I always say my natural superpower is I can see spirits. Like I can see not actual spirits, but I can see your spiritual self. Like anxiety, anxious, mental illness, those type of things. It's like I can just see you. I'm a natural empath, which was something I was led to in schizophrenia land, because empaths don't know that they're empaths. But I was led to it that I'm an INFJ personality trait, and it's basically a trait where if like right now, even talking to you, it gives me anxiety because I'm not used to letting people in and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So like these are things that manifest in my poetry. These are things that manifest in a movie I'd be writing or something like that. But
Mm,
saying the opinions, like I'm not sure how to articulate them to you, but I think I'm relaying them pretty well. But I was led to, that's my personality trait. Like if people actually sat back and listened, I could actually change the world. And then there's my Hulk side, my the Harley Quinn poem, or the
right,
Women of No
right.
Protection poem, that side that comes out like it's fire. So
And I will say, you couldn't tell, because you are an amazing speaker, and you like very well, you give very speeches very well. I see all the, I don't have time to comment on all of them, but I see all the posts that you put out on my Lost Boys page, poem after poem, like, and just like you are very good at speaking, very good at getting your point across, very good at relaying it. and yeah, your superpower is amazing.
Oh, thank.
Um, but yeah, no, I think that like e- stepping out of our comfort zone
Yeah.
and doing things that make us feel anxiety is where is going to make us better. It like since I started doing the show, like the show gives me massive anxiety. I am very familiar with the feeling that you're talking about.
Okay.
Uh, Doing this show, I mean, putting myself out on the internet at all, it gives me massive anxiety. I'm not. It's
Yeah.
not for me. I'm not. I'm not a. I think I said this at some point before, but I'm not a Howie Mandel. You know, and I'm never gonna be. Nobody can be Howie Mandel, but I'm never like. I'm not a host. I'm not an internet personality, as
Uh,
they would say. And
I
that's
got.
how. I, that's that's just how I see it. But like, I try my best because I don't know. I was on some other shows,
Hmm.
and I was like, it wasn't necessarily hubris where I was like, I think I can do this better. It was more like, I think that I can do this different, and I think that some of these people aren't bringing um what I could bring to this, and getting what I could get out of it.
Yeah.
As far as just going I feel like my show, even the regular show, not just the deep cut show, we
Yeah.
go deeper than a lot of typical radio shows or poetry shows or whatever, and those shows are amazing and great, because they do their thing
Hmm.
very well. You know what I mean? They do what they have. Like, we're not American Idol, and nobody's going to be American Idol because American Idol does what they do
Right.
very well. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think it's the same thing with this show, is like I am able to kind of, I want to say, reach people on a different level. And I don't want to speak for everybody who's ever been on my show,
Hmm.
but the majority of people that I talk to feel very like just for some reason I'm able to make them feel comfortable and just bring a vibe out where it makes people feel more open to being open.
Right.
And I think that I at least 95% of my guests and audience are introverts, again, I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's probably a pretty close statistic.
Yeah.
Um, that we're a bunch of introverts, and that's why it's called Lost Boys. I always do it on the wrong side. That's why it's called Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Because we're all lost. We all kind of feel lost in the world and kind of feel it's a place to come be lost together.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like Neverland. You know?
It is. And
Yeah.
you're a phenomenal host, actually. You bring out the best in people. You're very encouraging. And I say, when you have that moment where you kind of just seen the holes and you seen your entry into a world where this is your table. You understand, you bring what you bring to your table, and it is that comfort, it is that safe space. It's not always commercialized, but it's real, and you
Right.
bring that, you bring that. That's why I was tagging you in other poetry pages and stuff like that. Like, if you want a safe space to talk or relay your poems, and just to communicate, this is a perfect show to come and be on, and to hopefully
Yeah.
grow your audience even more, because I mean, you deserve that.
Yeah,
It
and that's why, again, that's why I started doing this deep cut thing. Because I was thinking, I was like, first of all, there's some artists in particular, and I messaged them all immediately. You were one of, obviously, the first three, because this is our third episode that I've recorded. So my plan is, I'm going to, they're pre-recorded, so I'm going to release them, as extra content down the line in the next few weeks, once I do some editing and whatnot. But again, that's why I wanted to do deep cuts, because like it the flyer, don't get me wrong, the flyers are awesome.
Mhm.
The poetry is amazing.
Right.
And I did do your introduction, for the sake of it,
Right.
but I kind of just wanted to strip away all the little trappings,
Yeah.
of the show, all the little, like, oh, I have to get all set up for this, I have to have
Yeah.
my intros in front of me. I have to, because it distracts me from focusing on the person.
Right.
and the conversation, and just going into detail with what we're talking about.
Right.
And like I just you're gonna see these deep cut episodes, and they're I think that it's gonna probably be one of people's favorite things.
I think
it,
so.
it I think it really is, because it's like it's more and my show is already very feels very personal, at least to me. I mean, I make it feel personal because I sit in my living room in my comfy chair, and I'm just like, so it kind of feels like I'm hanging out in my living room with my friends. So
Yeah.
but it the goal of this show is to kind of make it more personable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think people are really gonna like that.
I, I, I,
um
I really, really do.
so when I did message you, and I had asked you if there was anything that you maybe wanted to talk about. One of the things you mentioned was, now correct me if I'm phrasing this wrong, but I believe you were saying you wanted to kind of talk about the gatekeeping aspect of art and poetry, and how some people are think that it should only be created and released in a certain specific way, and then the other perspective side of that is that you can do whatever the fuck you want, because artistic expression is artistic expression, and that nobody, like, for example, with new age bands or whatever, no people should be kind of gatekeeping the industry, like, yo, you can only release things a certain way. um so I guess I'll start off an example that I had not too long ago. I had a guest on the show who, or I was going to have a guest on the show. He was invited on the show. He was scheduled in the group chat.
Okay.
And he will not. I will not. He will remain nameless
Okay.
because he has threatened to sue. Yeah, he's a little wacky, but
Okay.
everybody knows who I'm talking about. I'll tell you in private message. But so
Okay.
he was scheduled to come on the show, and late night before the show, he was in the group chat, and we had a couple self-published artists in the group chat, and he was kind of shaming them
Uh,
for being self-published, and saying that the self-publishing industry is dead. It has no place in the whatever in today's society. The only way you're gonna get. He was a traditional, like, very hardcore traditional publishing, and is very hardcore gatekeeping, very hardcore. And he was, in fact, very wrong. And you can any a simple Google search will show you that he is very wrong.
right.
Independent publishing is bigger than it's ever been.
Right.
Um, Period. End of story. Independent music and independent publishing are bigger than they have ever been,
Yeah.
because the internet is bigger than it has ever been.
Right.
So not only was he wrong, but he was also rude. And I told him that I had to, reschedule him for a different show. I didn't kick him off. I just said I had to reschedule him for a different show because these other artists felt insulted and didn't feel like tonight, that night was going to be a good vibe with him on the show. So
Right.
he responded by insulting me, being rude to me, calling me names, and threatening to sue me if I used his name or picture anywhere.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, I used a lot of I mean, I used a lot of examples both in the music industry, and with, like, I was talking about, the situation with Taylor Swift and how all her music got, stolen by freaking mainstream publishing. And I also, one thing I had mentioned was, I don't know if anybody's ever read Huckleberry Finn.
no.
um but he was writing independently. He was a self-published author, and that was over 100 years ago.
Right.
So I mean, how can you tell me that independent publishing isn't hasn't ever been, and he was also saying, something about, like, vanity publishing, which is completely different than self-publishing. But there's distinct details, but I won't get into it. Yeah, and he was just
Just rude.
those he was so rude, and but those are the people that kind of hold us back as a society and like artistically.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because he didn't. It's okay to, but it's about to awake versus offend somebody. Um, I don't do things to offend. I do things to educate and also bounce off, and maybe you can educate me. So it's
Right.
the fact that he was so offensive about it, and he had to degrade other people in order to make himself feel good, and then call them vanity publishings or whatever, versus, being discovered, I guess, which is kind of like what was happening in the actual industry, like in Hollywood, you could say, the reality star versus the normal discovered actress, actor, singer, and all that stuff, and how social media kind of eliminated the fight, I guess, to get seen. But it doesn't mean you work any less, it doesn't mean you work any more, it just means you figured out the new way, because we're forever evolving people. So the new way is just social media. So you figured out the social media hustle, those type of things. And you figured out, if you have talent, you have talent. There are people out there who, just do things to, degrade themselves, but keyword, it's themselves, uh, in order to get on, but it's themselves. That
Right.
has no inkling on your shine whatsoever. You will shine through regardless, when you have talent. So I don't believe in people who do that. When I mean gatekeeping, I mean there are those who I can't really say gatekeep the shine, because the shine will happen regardless. Nobody can gate a shine. That's just meant to be. That's just, like I said, I believe in the universe. That's just what it is. So whatever's meant to be is going to happen regardless of what you try to do. But gatekeeping, like how somebody relays their art, and it that came from you sent me a private message about a poem you wrote, and I remember it was like based on like Christmas holidays, and you were like the
Dear, it was called Letter to Santa, but yeah. What was
Yeah,
the line you were
go ahead.
what was the line you were
You were
referencing?
the ho ho ho, and you were like, "Does that sound offensive?" and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Wait a minute." The metaphor for me, it was totally different. It may not even be what you were trying to relay, but when I read it, that's what I heard it as. I was like, I thought it was good. I was like,
That's really funny
I,
because I did make the executive decision and decided not to use it in that week's episode,
okay,
but it is great that like it's on here because like this is deep cuts.
yeah,
And another thing that what I'm gonna like to start doing is kind of sharing the behind the scenes of sort of how this art gets created.
yeah,
um, and yeah, no, I mean, okay, so there's two reasons I cut the ho 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 line.
okay,
And the first reason was because to some women it could sound degrading or offensive. And I did talk to a lot of my female audience and they seemed okay with it. And honestly, the majority, none of them said, "Yeah, don't put that in." It was actually just one of the male artists that I was talking to that was speaking out against it and having concerns about it. And I'm glad he did because at first I didn't think about it, but so that was the first reason I took it out. The
mm,
second reason was because it was also too similar to a line in a song by Dax that is also is on the same similar topic. It's a Christmas song, and I think it's called "The Grinch," and he uses that same line, "Ho ho ho," like, and it was kind of the same cadence too. And I was like, it's a funny line, but one, I don't want to insult people, and two, I don't want to rip someone off. And so I'm just gonna leave it out, and I changed it to something about. I said I think I just changed it to like, girls in bikinis giving me dances or something like that. Like, instead of ho ho ho's, like I changed it to just girls, and like it was still the same imagery, like we were on a private jet and girls were dancing, like that was the image I was trying to get across. But I didn't have, and it was, you have to hear the song to know what I'm talking about. But basically, one of my wishes for Christmas was a private jet with girls dancing, and that was the image I was trying to get across,
Yeah.
because it was the letter to Santa. And obviously the ho 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 line would have been funny, but it didn't seem like enough reward. Like for it wasn't enough payoff to do it. It was more risk than it was reward for me.
Mm.
To use it. I feel like using it could have hurt me and could have hurt others, but not using it didn't really hurt me that bad at all.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? It's
Okay.
like it's better to just not do it, and you won't really be affected by it at all. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Okay. Because
So,
piece that you wrote is the way I interpret it was like a uh kind of like an oppressed man or a working class man saying, "Hey Santa, you missed my house this year, and these are the things I want, and these are the things you better bring me because I work hard. I do that, I'm out there just like everybody else, and I do things." So when you said that ho ho ho, I was just like, I understood it as like, do I have to be a ho ho ho, or do I, how do I
yeah.
gifts? How do I get? Why do you keep missing my house annually? Those
That's
kind.
ex- I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's
Okay.
exactly what it is.
Okay.
And so it was partly inspired by Dax's The Grinch, which is basically a letter from the Grinch um to Santa, and also Hollywood for he says he says Universal made a movie about his life and then cast Jim Carrey instead of picking him. And he wants Universal to call his lawyers. But because in the music video he's all dressed up like Jim Carrey was in the movie, and it's really funny. But
Okay.
so it was partly inspired by that, and
Okay.
then it was partly inspired by oh shit, I lost my train of thought.
That's the weed.
Oh, another song. It's a comedy song that I heard when I was younger, and it's kind of an offensive song, but it's called "Santa Hates Poor Kids," and it's meant to be kind of insulting, offensive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and but it is kind of a funny song. But it was like some of the concepts that he talks about in it, just it was kind of like, huh, that's funny, like, lower class people, like, they must think that Santa, either their kid, they don't like, and I'm not saying that, like, I'm saying like people who literally can't even get their kid, like,
Oh.
one toy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've been very broke, but I've never been that low, fortunately for me, and
Mhm.
that is, amazing. But I have lots of friends who have, and I know lots of people who have,
Mhm.
and like, it was just an interesting concept, even though it's meant to be a funny kind of insulting song or whatever, is that, like, you know like, Santa, if he were real, does it, like, it would kind of seem like he doesn't like those kids. He only brings, and the richer you are, the better gifts you get. And it kind of goes to show how society is kind of how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yeah.
And it's a very, like, and that's part of what I was trying to symbolize in the song too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, is like you were saying, a working class man, which I am, who just struggles with money and whatever, is just like, hey Santa, like, bring me some shit.
Yeah.
I deserve it. But there were a lot of things that I touched on in there. It wasn't just material possessions. There was a lot of, I went back and forth between, like, oh, you better bring me some cars and some jets and then it was like, you better bring my family some health and some, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I started the piece off by saying like I need some food for the rent. I need some or I need some money for the rent. I need some food for the kid or something like that.
Right.
But you know, yeah, it was a reflection of our society, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I just thought, what better way to show that than Santa? I mean, especially around Christmas time.
When I read it, it landed. I was like, I get it. I was the advocate for the ho 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 because I felt it. I was like, you keep it in there, but you
I
change it.
appreciate that.
It's cool. I get it. Because you don't want to be I guess that's what I was talking about, artistic wise, because there are those artists out there who like to invoke, like I said, superpower, drug use, suicidal thoughts, main anxiety, detrimental music, detrimental artistry versus illumination of beauty and growth and light, things of that
I
nature.
think you're right, but I
Yeah.
think there's a fine line there because I think a there is a way to make songs with those topics:
Hmm.
drugs, anxiety, depression, all of the things you just meant, like the biggest sorry, fumbled over my words. The biggest example I can think of is Juice World. He talks about all those things in his music, but I mean, if you've ever heard him speak in any interviews, and he says in a lot of his songs, and if you actually listen to his music, it is not meant to be detrimental. These are actually the things that he's going through in his own life. And I mean,
Right.
because I mean, he was singing about drinking codeine because he was drinking codeine to kill the pain, like that. Like he literally says that in his
Yeah.
so here's the thing: is that's the difference between Juice World
Right.
and then these kids who listen to Juice World and do it because it's fun, and they don't understand that Juice World's doing it because he's fucking sad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and he's not, and there's a song out right now, and of course, rest in peace to Juice World. He's not with us, but Eminem got the rights to some of his music and made a song, and it's called "Lace It." And it is, and if there has ever been two people to listen to about not taking drugs and not ruining your life, it's probably Eminem and Juice World. The two people who have made their entire half of their career, or the majority of their career, talking about using drugs and doing crazy shit on drugs.
Yeah.
And this is a song about being careful and not the chorus is it's obviously, it's one of those poppy catchy, it's roll it up, lace it, pop a few to chase it, um something like that. And then but Eminem's verse, um and I won't bore you down with the entire thing, but the ending verse kind of wraps everything up perfectly, and it's one of like the best verses like lines that I've heard. And he says, to the younger generation, I ain't lecturing you, but man, just be careful when you, and then Juice World comes in with the roll it up, lace it, pop a few to chase it. And and Juice World has a verse in it too, where they both do it in their own unique styles, but kind of outlines, his own loss, and like he's like,
Apply.
don't do as I say, not as I do. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And Eminem outlines, he's like, I was my escape was narrow. Because if the paramedics told Eminem in 2007, whenever he collapsed and went into rehab for like 4 years or whatever, they told him that if he had this was like back in 2007. If he had made it to the hospital less than 2 hours later, he would have died. Like they wouldn't have been able to bring him back. His heart did stop,
Yeah.
and it was mostly Valium, but he was just taking everything, painkillers, this, that, like anything, and he escaped. He's been sober for 13 years now,
Wow.
and unfortunately, Juice World was not as lucky.
Well.
But everybody go listen to that song, Lace It, because it is, and I can't stress this enough. If there are any two artists to listen to about not doing drugs and like taking care of yourself and like being careful with what you pop and snort and smoke, it's those two. It's definitely those two. because they
They know.
know how bad it is.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's the stuff, because the machine, what the machine does is exploit it. They exploit the drugs. They exploit the detriment of it all, and they don't up the pains of these artists. You know what I'm saying? It's just like Amy Winehouse. It's like all the Jimi Hendrix. All these
Kurt
artists who
Cobain, yeah,
way too soon because of the exploitation of their pains, because their trauma never got healed. It wasn't just enough that their dreams started coming true. Their trauma was never healed from that dream coming true. It was kind of like it's exploited. Look at this person, they're an alcoholic. Look at this person, they're doing all these drugs. So the machine illuminates that. Illuminates the, what you say, lace it, that line.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, versus this artist talking about the trauma that they went through in their past as a kid, as a teen, and those type of things. Like Eminem, I guess I was 18 years old when he first came out, and I remember myself sitting on the couch, and it was his very first video. And remember,
Hi, my name is yeah.
yeah, I'm 43. So this was during a time where I grew up with the Vanilla Ice. So when I seen Eminem, I was like, oh, this is just another, white boy
Right,
trying to
but
exploit. But I'm a person, I listen to words, I listen to lyrics, I listen to things like that. So I was listening to his lyrics. I said, oh, wait a minute. This boy got flow. He's not just your little typical, little, and then you seen him manifest, and it was like, oh, okay. And then you hear his
into
story.
arguably one of the biggest things that has ever been. Like that, from absolutely nothing, from literally from a speck of dust, from
Yeah.
a speck of basically, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong, I'm not calling Eminem a god, but I think that celebrities or people in that big of a not only social and economical status, but that big of a talent
Uh,
bracket, like whether you like his music or not, and I have said this and I will say this a billion times, and there's many artists that I will say this about, whether you like their music or not, you can't deny their talent.
you can't deny
There's
that.
undeniable talent. Like it's like Tom Brady. Like even if you don't like the Patriots, you can't deny that he's one of the best that's ever played the game, because it's just
Yeah.
like this. The stats are there.
Yeah.
The stats are there. Just like with these music artists like Eminem, like you can't, like he is undeniably one of, but it's yeah, he was, and everybody's like, oh yeah, he was produced by Dre, who was already the biggest. Yeah, but he is so far surpassed Dre, far
Yeah.
surpassed Dre's level of fame. And there's hard work there. There is, I mean Eminem, there, everybody who's ever worked with him in the studio, you can look up interviews. um he treated it like a 9 to 5 job. He would
Right.
go in, and he freaking I think it was like Jay-Z or Akon or somebody showed up to work with him like past 5 o'clock, called him, was like, hey, where you at? He's like, I'm going home, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Like, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
No,
This
like
job.
it's
Yeah.
it's a job,
Right.
and I think that's like, I think there's something to be said about looking at, you know
Celebrity. Yeah.
this
That's what I
this
call it.
this
You can be
yeah,
fangirl and
I
all that, but they're artists, and this is a 9 to 5 job. And what you do is a reflection. Your professionalism speaks volumes. So just to know
yeah, and
that that
I
is wonderful.
I told my coworkers when I left work tonight, I was like, I'm just going to my second job. Like this is, I'm not right now. We're not profiting off of it. We're not making any money. Actually, I'll give you a real deep cut. We're not even breaking even.
Oh my God.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm spending money on this show at the moment, but we have received a few donations, and
Okay.
there's other things coming down the line that hopefully will start moving us in that direction. Um, and eventually, what I want to start doing is putting, once I establish a big enough audience that is willing to pay for something like that,
Okay.
putting these extra episodes or whatever, or making whatever extra content and putting on Patreon. And that's one of the steps that, I'll one of the things that I'll give away that we're gonna start moving towards at some point.
Okay.
But
I need to start
yeah,
educating myself on those things, because I'm not
it
like I said,
is.
I'm just new to this because I
Me
stepped out for
too.
a very
Me
long
too. I
time,
have
so I'm very
I've
new.
just been studying. I've just been studying and trying to. It is so much work because like I have to learn how to edit videos. I have to learn how to, I have to learn all about mics and different like I didn't even know the type of mic I was using was wrong for
Oh,
podcasting. You know what
oh,
I mean? I got an entire new mic and a new mic stand.
uh-huh.
And there's a lot of things this year that I'm doing to kind of upgrade me, my life, and my show and the way things operate. And it has all come as a result of the show. And in particular, like you and Poetless Shakespeare and Cage and so many other artists has given me like so much motivation, especially in this new year, to just like push harder than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And it's just like such a return of energy because I feel you guys getting it back because like I mean I scheduled Cage for every month this week and he's just pumping out songs like it's nothing like
Yeah.
it's freaking he's like Willy Wonka and they're just chocolate bars just flying at my face like I literally it's and I mean that song we're in a world of pure imagination, one of my favorites, and it really makes me when I think of my art and
Hmm.
I think of just zoning out and creating that and feeling that artistic energy from other people and
Right.
from myself and from the universe or whatever. Like, I just feel like if my life were a movie, that song would be playing while I'm writing. You
Okay.
know what I mean? With I think his name's Gene Wilder.
Oh, okay.
Whoever I forget whoever played the Willy Wonka. He's dead
Wilder.
now. He's dead now, so rest in peace. But yeah, no, amazing. Like I just pictured that he would be singing that because it is a world of pure imagination. S- it's a world where you can create things that seem impossible and out of like just crazy, like a wall that you can lick and taste every flavor, or a river of chocolate, or you know what I mean? Like that's I feel like we are like that. We're kind of like Willy Wonka. We're
Yeah.
creating these amazing creations just, you know, and that's just because we have the artistic ability to do it and the power to do it. And not only that, but like I love artists that, and we're kind of talking about the gatekeeping thing, how some people think it should be made a certain way,
Hmm.
and I love artists who just like to have fun. Just put a line in there or whatever because it might not be the best line ever, but it's a fun line. It
Yeah.
just because. Um, Now a lot of people going back to referencing Elon Musk again. I know this is a weird circle, but
No, it's okay.
he he's an inventor, he's a creator,
Right.
much like, and he is an artist. I
Right.
mean, he personally designs the stuff himself. He doesn't just I mean he has a whole business, but he's in there hardcore like developing, mapping stuff out. Like he's down to the nitty-gritty and he's a genius.
Yeah.
But I mean his car, if you and his car has Easter eggs. Like you know how movies and video games has Easter eggs? His
Yeah.
car. If you play a certain ballet song, his car will start dancing.
Oh my God. But see, that's the imagination of an
He
artist.
made he made the
That's
SpaceX
cool.
rocket. He made the SpaceX rocket. The top of it was he made it it was like this, and he made it domed,
Mhm.
and he spent like $6 billion on it or something. You know why? Because the rocket ship in the movie Spaceballs was more dumb, so he wanted it to look like the movie for the one from the movie Space. He just does it because it's fun, and I
Oh,
that's
that
like
is
the
so
best
cool.
kind
So
of artist.
that's
And to
money.
me, that's the best kind of billionaire too.
Yeah.
That's the person you want to have the money. Like he is very smart, very strategic, and very just like he's just fun kind of. You
He,
know, he does things cuz they're just like he can do them and he's fun, and that's the best kind of artist, I think.
I want
Um
to introduce. Well, I'm shy about it now. Like there's layers to me, as I always say. But I actually do music too. And before the whole schizophrenia thing happened, I was actually trying to. Well, I wrote out an album, and I was going to call it Eclectic Soul. and it was a mix of poetry with music that I wrote. So I would love to like, jam or maybe write with you and Cage one time. That'd be really cool.
Yes. Oh my god. You know what? There has never, and I quote somebody out there who knows hip hop better than me, go ahead to correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, there has never been a good hip hop album without at least one female vocalist on that motherfucker. I mean, listen to Biggie Smalls and Tupac, and that is like I mean, that's the golden standard for what hip hop is even to this day. And there were female track. I mean, female was half the like Biggie, can't you like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? There's no way that either of those albums would have worked without I think it does need a little bit of a female touch if we're gonna do an album.
that's
So
how.
absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
the mines are I sing. So it is one of those things. I'll have to go through my list and then like kind of give you guys a song that maybe you guys can bounce off of, because like I said, it's
Yeah.
eclectic. My songs are pop. I have a country one. I have a just regular rock and roll. Like my genre is more like jazz, and I like instruments. I'll say that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I listen to and people probably won't be surprised that I listen to rap obviously.
right.
I listen to a lot of rock obviously, and I also listen to a lot of country.
Mm.
Those are the three I was raised on. But some people might be surprised to hear that one of my favorites of all time is Beethoven.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, oh my god, the
but-
man is a fucking genius, and he didn't even listen, like he couldn't hear, he was deaf, so he couldn't even listen to the music. When we talk about the universe and the energy, and we're talking about vibes, right? Catching a vibe, I'm catching a vibe from you, you're catching a vibe from me. That man literally felt the vibrations of the universe.
yeah,
He felt the vibrations of the universe and created music with it. And I mean, I think it's his ninth symphony, the one that's like very often in a lot of movies, like maybe a lot of chase scenes, stuff like that.
right,
Um, I'd have to. I'm pretty sure it's his Ninth Symphony, but it is one of my favorite songs of all time because without any words at all, it tells a story and it just
right.
brings you up and down and just this emotional roller coaster of just, and it's amazing. And there's a reason why you know Biggie and Tupac are the gold standard for what hip hop music is supposed to be, and there's a reason why Beethoven is the musical standard for what all music is supposed to be, because that's what all music is. That's what all art should be. That
Yeah,
it should be a reflection of the pure feelings. You should literally tune into the vibrations of yourself, the universe, and whatever instruments you're playing, or who if you're like we were talking about with kind of reading people's thoughts, where like you can understand people because you're on the same vibration frequency. You
yeah,
can finish their sentences. Like Cage, me and him are probably good enough at some points to probably finish each other's sentence at this point. And Beethoven was on a vibration with an entire orchestra of people. They were all vibrating on the same frequency as him at the same fucking time
yeah.
while he was deaf, and it's just amazing. And
It's beautiful.
that's what kind of there's not a lot of bands nowadays. There's a
No,
lot of single artists, and I think there's something about a band that brings a certain energy. These people collaborating and you and vibing together on the same frequency and using their art collectively to create something amazing.
right.
There's something about it that you don't get from a solo, performance, or a solo artist, or even um, of something that's made by a computer, because all this shit is AI nowadays.
It's
I
AI.
mean, I
Yeah,
heard an AI song the other day and I was like, that's actually a good song. What the hell?
yeah. Well,
I was
sometimes,
like, what? It's scary.
yeah, it's off of us. Technically our vibration and what we bring to the table. So AI is bounced off something. It's still a vibration in some way, shape, or form. So Creations are creations.
Yeah, and man, it is the AI is getting ridiculous, and it is scary the things that will be able to be achieved in a few years. I mean, the level of advancement from say 1970 to 1990
Mhm.
is compared to the level of advancement from 2000 to 2020 is at least a magnitude of 3 times greater. At least a
Yeah.
3 times greater in scale of what we've achieved and been able to do.
Yeah.
And the internet has made people given people the ability to be smarter than they've ever been, but also the ability to be the stupid as they've ever been
Oh,
because they can do things
name.
with no consequence.
Yeah, well, and that was one thing I seen. It was he was a mukbanger or whatever, and he fed himself to the point where he used to be really skinny, and he fed himself to the point where he's like really big now. And I remember they were kind of talking about him on the internet or something like that, like, would you do this and stuff like that? And I was like, well, doesn't that say more about society? Is because we view it versus turning it off. He wouldn't do it if he wasn't getting the attention for it. So,
Mhm.
like those type of things, it's like, yeah, he's thirsty for the attention, but we're also the ones giving it to him. So
Yeah,
you know we're giving these people these platforms, we're giving this, so it's
and
we're
that
all a little narcissistic nowadays, and now there's a platform for us to get validated for that uh character.
yeah.
So it's just what it is.
It's the first time in human history that you've been able to say anything to anyone at
Yeah.
any time
Yeah.
for any reason with absolutely zero repercussion.
No consequence.
0 repercussion. You can say anything to somebody today. Oh my god! And this will be the second time I have called out a customer from one of my stores, but I wasn't even on staff this morning.
Mhm.
But I was scrolling through Facebook and I come across a post that said that this woman said, I didn't want a cross dresser or
Tran.
I'm sorry, she drag queen. Thank you.
Okay.
A drag queen came into my store today, and this lady posted on Facebook that she has absolutely no respect for a man who dresses like a woman, and she's being very transphobic,
Okay.
and and then she went on to say, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to cause a scene. Um, and I just I felt the I just felt the need, and I try to be the bigger person. I really do, but I
Mhm.
really felt the need to take a stand and say something because I'm also the assistant manager at that store, and I have been told that if someone's being disrespectful to someone else, I have the right to kick them out of the store. So I said, um, now, pardon my language because I was very infuriated by this. I They posted on Facebook. They said they didn't want to make a scene in the store, but then they go home, get on their phone, and make a scene on Facebook,
Oh.
right? So, because they can do it with absolutely no repercussion if they had done it in the store. By the way, my store is right next to the police station. They had
Oh,
done it in the store. There'd be repercussions. I
yeah.
said, "What the absolute fuck is wrong with you? How dare you shame someone for the way they dress? You transphobic asshole! You should be ashamed of yourself." You said you didn't say anything because you didn't want to cause a scene, but the real reason is because you are a coward and you have to hide behind your phone screen to say awful, hurtful things to people. You are an absolute disgusting human being. If you are going to degrade, shame, and bully my customers, we don't need you in our store. Please take your business elsewhere.
Right.
And it's one of those examples where it's like that person probably lives in my town,
Yeah.
and they like that. They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare say that to anybody or mention anything like that. You didn't do it because you didn't want to make a scene. You did it to save your own ass, and because you can hide behind your computer screen and say whatever the fuck you
Yeah.
want without any repercussions.
Oh, that's my thing. When I post, controversial stuff, but I mean, like I said, I don't mean it to be offensive or anything like that. And I'm always open, to get educated and things of that nature out. I wouldn't give an emotional response versus a logical response. So, those things you see online a lot, people getting checked for what they say, and people getting put on blast for what they say, because it's like, yeah, there aren't no repercussions, you may say, days, there are people, I'll hold you accountable. There are people out there who will find who you are, your name from your Facebook, what you spewed, and go and send it to your job. That's
Mm-hmm.
how serious it is out there.
It
So
is. It has gotten absolutely ridiculous. It's
yeah.
gotten absolutely ridiculous, and we've become so desensitized
Hmm.
to other people's emotions. So
Yeah.
desensitized, and I know that everything. Here's well, on one hand, we've become oversensitized, like everything's cancelable. You can get
Yeah.
canceled for everything. Everything's whatever. But on the other hand, we become desensitized to people's emotions, and to the point where we think we think that we can do whatever we want with no repercussions, and we carry that into our everyday life.
Yeah.
I will give a great example, and there are deeper things. That man was going through a lot of stuff when he did this, but Will Smith at the Oscars when he slapped Kevin Hart, or not Kevin Hart. What? No, it wasn't Kevin Hart. It was
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. Chris
Chris
Rock.
Rock.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was partly because there's a lot of toxic things going on in his own relationship, in his own life, and
Mm,
things like that. But it was partly because, especially being a celebrity and being at such an untouchable level,
mm.
and with now the internet thing, it is like we can just walk up and smack each other in the fucking face with
Yeah.
no repercussions whatsoever. And it's I feel like he's been, and a lot of people have been in that like state for so long. Like
Yeah.
Donald Trump can just like text the or tweet the North leader of North Korea's has a small penis and he's gonna blow him up. What? You're a president. That is so unprofessional. What the fuck
But,
are you doing? That is, you know what I mean? Like, but we can just do that now.
but
It's
it's
the
good
first time in
clickbait.
history.
It's what's
It's right.
crazy.
It is.
It's good clickbait. It's
It
good,
is. It
but it
is.
also shows you what this world is. These are supposed to be our leaders. They're supposed to be protecting us.
Yeah. And
It's like you gave big kids the throne and told them to feed us, and they don't know how to cook. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird. It's this world. It's good. It's good clickbait. It's funny. It makes you laugh. It makes you talk and stuff like that. But it distracts you from what they're doing to you. And
there
that's the sad part.
it really does. It really does. And they want us to fight with each other so that we don't fight
Yes,
them, like you were saying before. And
that's it.
that's what social media does. It
That's
gets
it.
us all in this big mixing pot, like high school.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers high school, right?
Everybody
Everybody remembers how bad it was when we were
crack.
all mixed up
Yeah,
together. That fucking the internet is like the biggest high school.
it
It
is.
is it is dog eat dog. It is survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
It is a fucking jungle. And it is the first time in human history that we've been able to just be just openly vile to each other and just tear each other apart.
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing:
But also
the people in charge, they are basically like big toddlers,
they are.
but their toys are nuclear drones or
Exactly.
drones and nuclear missiles that
That
can
can
fly
kill us.
at the speed of sound.
Yeah,
Like,
they can kill
y-
us.
you know what I mean?
That
Don't get me
quarterback
wrong.
you and kill a whole landmass while you're smiling at his tweet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Mhm.
um and it doesn't negate the intellectual side of the internet, the me and you side, the artistic side, the one who talks about it, the ones who see it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And it's like our fight is we're kind of the light and that's the darkness. So just, we may look at it like we're on a low scale, but just us talking about it and knowing that it's out there and talking and all that stuff and educating people, it helps. It
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
it's bringing light to it. It's like I was saying before, Superman's not coming to catch the missiles, but
No.
like let's try to prevent the missiles from going off in the first place. Like that would be the
We
goal.
turn them
You
off.
know,
Yeah,
I
we can.
mean, we are this close to self extinction.
Yeah.
I mean, we've actually the closest we've ever come to extinction was actually a super volcano, and it wiped the entire planet down to about 1,000 people. We actually don't know how many people, but it was about 1,000. That's a concert.
Mm,
That's like a small gathering. 1,000 people in the entire world. We were that close to actual extinction at one point. And I think that these weapons and I know for a fact that these weapons have the ability to do that. These weapons that they are building now, and that's kind of the thing that scares me too, is when I talk about fighting the government. It's different than when the colonial people talked about fight. When they talked about fighting the government, they wrote the Second Amendment so that they could have their muskets and they could go out there with their muskets. And we are past muskets, people. They
yeah.
have drones, they have nukes. I don't care how many shots your AR-15 fires, they will crush you. They will
Yeah.
crush you, they will annihilate you. That's not how we fight the government. Unfortunately, we can't fight the government with our muskets anymore. It's not
No,
going to work.
we
We have to
actually have
fight
to
the government with our words. We have to fight
our
the
word
government with our spirit, our
in our
our
physical acts. I just wrote a poem called "Soldiers." Like, if the government doesn't have an army to shoot their missiles, to shoot their drones, and to do all those things, they just be little children, um, commanding somebody. Like rich men, they don't have people who follow them. Like Putin never could do what Putin did if nobody went over there and fought. Genocides couldn't happen over there if soldiers didn't go over there and fight. A soldier's job is to fight for the little people. It's not to fight a rich man's war. Those type of things. It's for us to awaken and to realize, like, we don't have to comply with these rules that they wrote down on a piece of paper. Our compliance, I have a poem called Compliance too, but our compliance is the biggest, is really the thing we need to wake up to. They only rule with our compliance.
and who funds, not just in manpower but in actual financial, you know, who funds their wars, who funds their guns,
Yeah.
who we are the people who essentially paid for these missiles that are going to blow us up.
Yeah.
We bought our own death warrant. We our taxes paid for nuclear missiles that at any point could just wipe an entire country off the fucking map. And maybe that's on a small, like there are some missiles, and there's some debate whether Russia is telling the truth about what they have and blah blah blah. But there are some missiles right now that are estimated to have 10 times the nuclear power of Hiroshima. 10
Yeah.
times. That is world ending.
Yeah.
That's checkmate.
But I always look at it as this. And this is my thing. Like I said, I'm a naturalist, I'm a spiritual person. Naturally, I feel Mother Earth naturally will get rid of the toxic. So if that missile happens, it's because Mother Earth wants to get rid of it, wants to get rid of that toxicity, wants to get rid of that ego, wants to get rid of, because there was dinosaurs, like you said, a volcano wiped out. You know what? Mother Earth will always reject a rulership that isn't generating life. We can have Mother Earth can take care of what it generates. But if you have a rulership that is dealing with population control because what they're ruling isn't fruitful, then it's going to get rid of it. Mother is going to get rid of it all. And that's
Are you
just,
familiar? Are you familiar with Pangea?
no, I'm not.
Okay, so Pangea is what people call the land of the dinosaurs, or the land before humans, what Earth was before the continents. Now, this is the part I wanted to focus on,
Mhm.
is all the Earth masses were
Mhm.
much more conjoined at first. They have split apart over time, and if you read up on it, eventually,
I know about. Yeah.
right, eventually Hawaii will drift away from us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
California. Yeah.
Eventually we will separate even more. I mean, even
Yeah.
California will cease to be a part of this part of the landmass.
Yeah, I'm from
Um,
Oregon. It's supposed to be predicted that there's supposed to be an earthquake, a massive earthquake in Oregon. Um,
Fault lines all
yeah,
down the West
yeah.
Coast.
So yeah,
Yeah. Um, and so, but on a spiritual level, do you think that the dividing of the land represents how from then on, um, nature and the creatures in it started to become at war with, do you think the separating, I mean, obviously you haven't read up on Pangea and the theory or whatever, but um the I feel like the separating Pangea was basically what the world was when it was whole, and then the continents separated, and I feel like on a spiritual level the separating kind of represents how we've become destructive and separated as a species, and I just feel like that was that planet continental shift was the start of the end, the beginning of the end,
I think it was the beginning of something anew.
because
Um,
we and this is supposedly a scientific fact that we only have 500 million years till the sun boils the
yeah,
oceans, right?
that's fear mongering.
Right, you're right.
But I believe the reason why those type of things, what scientists say those type of things, is because they know their rulership is detrimental. It's not feeding the people; it's feeding themselves. It's not nourishing the ground; it's destroying the ground. It's poisoning water. It's poisoning everything that humans only need food and water to live. Like when you sit back and really think of that concept, um, all you need is food and water. What are we doing all the rest of the stuff for? And it's all for somebody else's financial gain. So when you start to realize, and the system of financials used to be just border system. You had this resource, I had this resource, let's trade so we all can feed. Nowadays it's I'm hoarding this resource and you have to financially give me this, or else I can
Mhm.
destroy your land, I can destroy your people. And wars were over a selfish need, like we were talking about the Three Musketeers and things of that nature. When an evil existed, it was about eliminating that evil, versus letting that evil continue. And right now we're in a mindset where we're kind of we're seeing these children up in higher offices and things of that nature, but we're not doing anything to eliminate the evil. You understand? But
Right,
talking about it and trying to bring light
right.
to something new. So, like, scientists, they know, you'll see scientists online saying we won't have that long to live because, you know, um, they're so called in the Congo right now. They're so called worried about what's it called, Palestine and things of that nature. What are we warring over? All we need is food and water to live. So what is this? And when we get back to those basics and start realizing that, like, the world should be about beauty, art, and love, and being fruitful and multiplying. Everything else was taught to us as so-called sin and hatred.
So, I mean, and this is all right. This is obviously a broad reach, but here's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that and this is obviously another broad reach, but like, I am a big conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Um, I think that, and I was talking about how there's been a super volcano. We were wiped down to almost 1,000 people. I think that we are going to annihilate ourselves. It is to the point of almost complete human extinction, and we are going to start back from primitive, from caveman. And I think that it is not the first time that it's happened. I think that I know there's scientific evidence that might prove me wrong, but I believe that there's a possibility that like the pyramids or the Sphinx might have been there or already, or say like Atlantis, the a pre-civilization that advanced, and then for whatever reason, whether it was nature or whether it was nurture, the people themselves, they destroyed themselves, and they either sunk under the sea, like they say Atlantis or whatever. But I think there's been some kind of, or multiple pre-civilizations that we are not aware of at all.
Mhm.
Um,
They hide from us.
pre ice age. I mean, I'm talking like pre ice age.
Right.
That we aren't even you know close to aware of. That was far more advanced. Maybe not like to the point of computers and whatnot, but
Yeah.
we still don't know how they got those, how they built the pyramids, how they got those giant rocks that high, layered with perfect limestone, all perfectly measured. They also measure out the sun. I mean, there's
I
just a
did say
lot,
something about superpowers, didn't I?
right? There's
Unlocking.
just so much, and I think that I think building those pyramids shows a level of advancement that even building something like a laptop doesn't. You know what I mean? I think that there were
Yeah.
pre-civilizations that were more advanced than us in different ways, and I think that it's this universe. People could say God, or would a God testing us, or the universe testing us,
Mhm.
and it's like, nope, try again, try again. And same thing like the dinosaurs, and it was like, you know, this is creation.
That's all.
Obviously something wasn't going right. Obviously, Mother Nature was like, no, this is toxic. This needs to be reset.
Toxic.
Boom, asteroid.
Yeah.
Let's reset. Let's try this again. And
Let's
it's like
reset.
it's like I feel like we're on like take 4 now, or take 5. You know what I
I
mean?
think
Like,
that's what they're hiding is the cleansing about to happen. I think that's what they're hiding. I think that's what these viral moments are about. I think that's what these government moments are about, is that they're actually hiding that this cleansing is happening and or about to happen, and they don't know how to stop it. Um I- it's just what it is. Kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall, and if they don't use wisdom in these kingdoms, then you're destined to fall. Using ancient tools of kingdoms that have fallen, you're destined to fall. So you should always work with the new. We have what most would call primitive, but food and water, apple trees, the love of your life, poetry, music, all these things are natural manifestations in us. The other stuff isn't. To work, like I was pissed off when I got off at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, because I'm like, I shouldn't be up right now. I should be sleeping. You understand? I shouldn't be spending $300 at the grocery store. I shouldn't be doing all this stuff, because these trees, these plants, and things, I should be able to go outside and just collect them and start cooking. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what I think they are hiding. That's what I think they're hiding, and they're doing a lot of fear mongering right now.
I mean, they're okay. So, and I've talked about it a few times before. In the past few years,
Mhm.
there has been a smoke screen of so much shit
Yeah,
and it's so much. Okay, we've known they've had aliens for a while. They won't officially admit it until they did. They officially admitted that they had aircrafts that were, quote, this is a CIA quote,
yeah,
not not of this world,
yeah,
not manufactured in this world. Quote. That isn't exact, like,
yeah.
they
Why
admitted to
reveal it
aliens, and
now?
everybody just forgot about it in like 2 weeks.
Because why?
There were giant murder hornets.
Yeah,
Half of California and Canada and Hawaii are on fire.
yeah.
Uh,
Why
the
admit it now?
COVID, and then COVID, all
COVID.
this smoke screen, all this
Yeah,
smoke
yeah,
screen.
yeah.
It's all a distraction. It's
It's
all smoke and
yeah,
mirrors.
yeah, because it's like, why admit it now? The whole alien things, and then it's like, but you didn't introduce us to an alien. You understand? You're gonna tell me about this craft, but introduce me to the alien. We're okay now, and we'd love to see one. You know what I'm saying? We'd love to. Can I shake his hand, or his or her hand? Does it have a gender? We're
We
interested.
said we were going to storm Area 51, and you know what? We did. Everybody showed up. They showed up, and they had a party outside. But
Right.
I mean, that goes back to the whole thing I was saying about like people feel like they've become so desensitized, so they feel like they can do whatever they want whenever they feel like it. And it's like, you just showed up on the government's lawn where they have guns and drones and whatever else. Like, are you nuts? Like, are you crazy? Like,
So,
nobody in the '90s, early 2000s would have ever fucking. It's become a
no,
whole different beast.
yeah, but they didn't do nothing. The government didn't do anything. They
No.
exploited it online and made it go viral. You
Hmm.
understand? So it's like, do they
It's
have
a
these
tactic.
weapons that they talk about? Do they have these things? You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. Remember, it was revealed that the astronauts never actually went on the moon. It was a sound stage. Those type of things. There's a lot
And
of
we
stuff on.
just forget. We just forget about the freaking the people in the submarine who just got crushed.
Yeah,
How quickly did everybody just forget about that?
yeah, and think about the submarine. Come on now. You have U.S. navies, and this submarine had a freaking remote control of a PlayStation. Come on now. Those.
Not even. It was a knockoff. Like I have a good one. Like I have one of the actual $80 PlayStation controllers. It wasn't even one of these. It
Yeah,
was one of no. It was one of those cheap
Nintendo
like
from my
off
day.
brand and the owner of the company put out a PSA, or maybe not the owner, but somebody who worked there put out a PSA and was like, just so you know, these controllers are not meant to be used as underwater craft
Seriously.
piloting devices. Like they
Yeah,
are cheap PlayStation control. Like
yeah,
these are good. You know what these are good for? If you have a if you know your controller breaks and you need a quick
yeah.
replacement.
Did they
Not
ever
for a
air
trip.
the families? Did they ever
It
air
also
the wives of these men? Did they ever air those? The funerals of these men? Did they ever
no,
air that? I don't remember ever
no.
seeing that.
And these people paid a lot of money to go down there. I
They're
think
billion.
their families should be compensated. No,
Their families. These are so-called billionaires. Why weren't these families all over the news? Where are the
I
wives?
mean,
Where are the
okay.
kids?
The guy who actually built it though. Here's the thing: is the guy who built it. He went
Mhm.
down there with them, so
The-
he believed in it.
yeah. How convenient.
He believed in it, and he was like just I don't know, like how brainwashed do you have to be
Yeah.
to think that's a good idea.
I
And but
I get it.
it's just one of this many things that they just throw up as a smoke screen just to distract people.
The distract.
And
I
uh,
just the next level is happening. Like there's a new age coming. Next level is happening, and they don't know how to hide that this is a fallen. I just I they don't know how to hide it no more. So viral moments are great ways to do that because that's what we're paying attention to. You know.
I think so I made this piece called "The End Is Nigh," and I really think the end is nigh. The end is coming. That's what they're trying to hide.
Mhm.
And but the end is nigh was a kind of a rap about like what I'm doing to like it's about the journey. We're all gonna die. It's the end of the universe is eventually gonna happen. Eventually, like scientifically proven, like just like just like any other star, the sun will eventually burn out. Like it's just gonna have like there is an eventual end to everything, and I think there has to be in order to create new things, to create new life. You can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs. You know what I mean? You can't feed the population mostly. I mean, unless the vegetarians, but like you can't feed the population without killing animals, right? There has to be
Not
death
just
for there has to be death for there to be life. Like there
just
has to be a cycle of like ending and beginning,
but
kind of.
you just said it, and it's so it's the thing that we all miss in that little simplicity of what you were saying. You were just like, except for the vegetarians. And it's like, what did I just say? Like, food and water are all you need to live. So the people who think like a vegetarian and know, you don't have to kill cattle just to watch them grow. Animals
No,
and animals are the human creation of something that get God's universal plan. Be fruitful and multiply. They haven't changed from the DNA. The
and
ones
I think well,
are. Humans are the ones who think they're God.
Here's why I don't like. Okay, so here's the thing that most to me that what I've heard from the argument of vegetarians, most of the what I've heard is that one is that incubating and breeding animals for slaughter is inhumane, and it's you know that if we're not going down and hunting them anymore like a lot like in nature. That's the other reason I don't agree with them, is because in nature, a lion, nobody gets mad at a freaking lion for eating a gazelle.
No,
That's just nature. That's
no,
just nature. I mean, you watch The Lion King, he explains to his son the circle of life and how their dead bodies go into the earth and create soil so
yeah,
that the other people can eat, or
yeah,
not the other people, but the antelope can eat grass, and
yeah.
it's a
But
circle.
I'm a vegetarian, but the way I learned is I'm not a vegetarian who's an animal because I believe in the circle of life. I'm a vegetarian.
Right.
I believe that what you eat is supposed to be fruitful to your body to continue life. I don't want to have to live till I'm 70 years old if what I'm eating can make me live till I'm 120, till I'm
Right.
100 years old. So
And
it's
I can see that, but just I mean, and that's everybody's personal choice for their diet, and I don't think anybody. That's the other thing, is like that's something that gets not necessarily like gatekept, but what very shamed is how people like their people choose to have their diet. Like I don't. Some people have like, oh, I don't have respect for you if you eat meat, or I don't have respect for you if
I'm
you
not
just
like
eat vegetables,
that.
and it's just like, no, that's absolutely ridiculous, and that's one of the other ways that they divide us. But I
Yeah.
was going to say that the reason that I don't agree with the argument that breeding and incubating animals for slaughter is any less humane than tracking them down in the wild and killing them is because lions can run at 30 miles an hour.
Mhm.
They have claws, fangs, teeth. They have big muscles. They are e- equipped to do that, right?
Yeah.
Humans don't have all those things. We don't have a lot of things. We don't have a fur coat to keep us warm. We don't have any kind of protective shell like an armadillo or a turtle. We don't have a lot of the things that these things and people in nature do. But our one step up, besides our opposable thumbs that we have over every creature in the entire planet, is our brains. Okay, and learning and our the way we've learned to incubate animals and breed them, and instead of hunting them down in the wild and tracking them, that's just human nature at work. That's us using what we were given, our brain, which we don't have claws, we can't run fast, we can't do that, but we use what we have, which is our brain, to get the food easier. You know
But
what I mean? To make the hunting easier.
well, look at it this way. Let me just give you another opening on that. You see all these restaurants in the United States, France, Europe, everywhere. Where is the cattle to sustain those restaurants? Where's the chicken to sustain all those Popeye chains?
Well, I feel like a lot of the, like actual, drive-in, whatever food that we eat, it's not real, like, it's like ground up. It's kind of
Yeah,
like eating a hot dog,
yeah.
it's like a bunch of ground. And here's the thing that now I don't want
So
anybody to get
hold
me
on.
wrong because,
It's my point.
okay.
It is where are the animals that we're so called supposed to be manifesting into the scientific? That the animals are dying. You understand? They're dying. They're rejecting. I want you to look up. There was something in Mexico where these animals were literally walking around in a circle. It's not just nature replying, but it's also animals replying to this missing link. Animals were walking around in a circle until they died. They call it the death walk, and they were literally walking around in a circle until they died because there's something missing in this world that's not generating life. It's not generating wellness. It's not generating anything of light. And these animals are poisoned. They're toxic too.
Now here's the thing. Now don't get me wrong.
No, no, no. I'm sorry.
Um, I know, like we are very like the way we treat animals, a lot of the way we treat animals is absolutely disgusting. And I'm not an advocate for the way we treat animals at all.
Right.
Um, but I think that there is a humane way to efficiently raise and slaughter, because we are partly carnivores and we need
I
to,
want- Yeah,
we choose to, if we want to get our protein that way.
yeah, yeah. You
Um,
point.
and
Definitely
but
not.
here's the thing: is I don't want anybody to think that um I'm advocating for the way we treat them, because like in school I read this book. It's called The Jungle. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's about the meat packing industry in the
Oh,
1920s, and it is absolutely disgusting. It is the most inhumane
horrible.
thing ever, not only to the pigs and the cattle and whatnot, but
Yeah,
also to the humans who worked in those factories and their families. Oh my god, it was absolutely disgusting.
yeah.
And that was like one of the things, like, if I've ever considered being a vegetarian like that, that's the closest I've ever come, is reading that book.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, it was absolutely disgusting. But something I heard, I think it was on a podcast, or maybe I was reading something recently, is I wanted to get your opinion on it. How do you feel
Yeah.
about, so the same process that we can create, or I mean, I believe they're already cloning humans, but we can use, an egg and a man's sperm in a petri dish and grow a baby like that. How do you feel about growing our food like that? How do you feel about growing pigs, genetically engineered pigs and cattle, like because that's
Like,
where science is going. That's
well,
where we're going. Because like
it's
you
not
said, they're
going
dying.
anywhere.
They're all dying out. There's not going to be any left. We have
Yeah.
to make new
Well,
ones.
that's what I mean. That's exactly what I was talking about. I was like, it's not there when you really think about. I mean, think about Chick-fil-A. Okay, that's supposed to be where we get our best chicken and things of that nature. And then you got McDonald's, and then you got Popeyes, and then you got KFC, and then you got Church's Chicken. So where are all the farms? Where are the farms? You'd have to be working 24/7 to sustain this. And then you got the upper echelon restaurants, and you got the lower echelon restaurants. Then you got the mom and pop shops. There are no farms or cattle to sustain any of what we're eating. So we've been eating genetically engineered meat for a long time. We're just awake to it now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's true, and that's what I was saying. Especially those drive-in chain. And
Oh,
McDonald's is the biggest example. I mean, look how white that meat is. That meat is way too, like, it is. And they've had to. This guy did the that Super Size Me
super size me.
documentary,
Yeah, yeah.
and he exposed the whole industry, and they had to
Oh,
change. They didn't really change. They changed the look of a lot of their things, but it's
that's good.
really, but yeah, it is literally just, it's basically, a friend of mine used to call McDonald's nuggets 3D printed. 3D
Yeah,
printed nuggets, and I was like, you know what? You're probably onto
you're
something. You're
right.
probably that's more accurate than you think. Why are they
Yeah.
all so perfect in shape? Why do they all look like an ear?
Why are they
They all
shaped like this? There was this one comedian, and it was like it put me off, like even looking at oxtails and stuff like that. But he was like, I've been all around the world, and he said I haven't seen one ox. And I'm like, I'm an '80s baby, so I know what they showed me what an ox is as far as animal life. So I was like, let me Google it, and they started showing cows. I was like, that's not an ox.
no,
A cow
no,
is not an ox. I said an ox is that thing. An ox looks like a bison, and
yeah.
and they were showing it shows cows on Google, and then when you try to go more in depth, it damn near showed a dead one on there, like what are they called, a taxidermy type of one. So we're in a
It's
world of
It's the
crisis.
it's what I like to call, or some people like to call, the Mandela effect, where it's
Yeah.
the systematic erasing of information and changing of
Oh yeah.
information,
And
and
us
our
baby,
perspective on things and
I'm
how we
Gen X.
remember things.
Yeah, I'm Generation X. I know. You go look at a lot of people who are from Gen X, we see it. We see what they're trying to erase and make it seem like it was never there. And I'm like, we know it was there. We're the last of a dying breed. So when you got a Gen X person talking, you should know and listen, because it's like we know what they're trying to erase, and we see it. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
do see it.
and people are gonna people are, with the internet going the way it's going, like, it's people like us are gonna start exposing the truth more and more,
Ah,
and Lord help us, hope we don't get sniped for it.
I know.
um if the CIA comes for me, fucking, at least I fucking gave them what for before they fucking kicked down my door, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'd
it's
rather go
like,
down for telling the truth than living a lie.
well,
Uh,
like, hey, that's our power. That's what we do as artists, and that's what we should do. You
yeah,
know, that's what we're meant to do.
yeah.
Um, it is getting pretty late though.
I know.
Yeah, I know I noticed you're getting a little tired, but
No,
so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But I do want to ask, if before we go, is there anything that you would like to say to the people, or any message that if you could say something, if you could speak your truth and get a message to the world and talk to the entire world for 5 minutes, like, what would you say?
okay. Well, my motto is I'd rather be a stupid person than a smart person. A stupid person can forever learn, is always learning. But a smart person who thinks they know everything, you can never break down that wall. So walk around stupid. And that way you don't know everything. So that way you can forever learn. That'd be my
Hmm.
biggest thing. We're coming into a new time and a new age, and it's all about erasing what we were taught and to start opening our ears and eyes to what they hid. So walk around stupid.
Yeah. When my mom was teaching me how to drive, she said, if I hear the words "I know" come out of your mouth once, we stop the car. That's it. You get in the passenger seat. We go home.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the words "I know" come out of your mouth once, because this is about learning. You don't know shit about shit. And even if you do, pretend like you don't, because it's always better to get it over and over again and ingrain it in your mind than to not. So absolutely, absolutely. Um, always set your standards low so that you can rise higher than that.
Higher. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for that piece of advice.
Yeah. You're
It's
welcome.
been a wonderful time. One more time. This is Neila McSwain. You can go follow her on TikTok at Poetry Rose 42, on Instagram at Poetry Rose 1, or on Facebook at Neila McSwain. Thank you very much. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.